Hi everybody, I'm Kate Foggo, this is Julie Hurt with me, and together we are making light to humans being. So this week we're going to be talking about trusting ourselves. Julie's talking about this being new territory for her. So we'll talk about the trusting. So what this show is about is that Julie and I are both intuitives. We're both animal communicators and soul level coaches, soul level animal communicators and soul level intuitive coaches. But we're also, loosely speaking, human beings. And we like to talk about the things that we go through that we think will help other people, how our insights intuitives helps that and hinders it as well, but also just about life, being human, basically. So welcome. And Julie, you were going to talk about some observations in a work situation that has brought up some observations clash, shall we say, rather than issues, because I don't know if they are issues. It's just the issues that have highlighted the observations.
Yes.
That sounded almost corporate, didn't it? Yeah.
Yes. So we're good. Yes, very corporate, which you and I are both well versed in. And what's interesting is my nose is starting to itch, and there's usually a metaphysical reason for.
I can look it up if you've got a big fat book up there that will tell you what it is.
Oh yeah, I do want to know, because it's like it won't.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, because I've used this book precisely twice, and it's third times with you.
Okay. Yeah. So while you look it up, I'll fill people in. Oh, seriously? Oh, I need that book. Okay, I need all the books.
I'll send it to you, except it will cost more than buying it yourself. Okay, you introduce it. I'm going to look up itchy nose.
Okay, so here's the deal. So Lucas has been working with me on trusting myself across like all pillars, platforms. It's a foundational thing, because that's been a huge deal. And so we've been working on that. At the same time, there's been lots of examples of trusting myself showing up. And our good friend Kellyanne Curry, who is now in spirit, is here and holding on to my shoulder, which she typically does when, because she's like, yeah, she was very much about me trusting myself too, just like you've been, Kate. Anyway, as well as some other of our friends. So, so there's a situation where I'm really having to, so I'm going to back up. So for those of you from the corporate world, there are talent assessments and personality trait tests that many of us have done. Myers-Briggs is one, DISC is another. And these things all come out with me being a natural leader, which for much of my life, I've like been, oh, okay, but I'm just going to hide, because I never wanted to say something that was wrong. I never wanted to say anything that would upset somebody. There was always this like, it's just, I can't help it. I always felt like too, I might be pushy, all the stereotypes of leading women that are negative that we've created, like that I didn't want to be. I mean, who does? That's why they're put there, so that we don't actually rise up. Yes. Yeah.
No, there is another reason, I think, as well.
Oh, okay. We'll come back to that. So there's that. And then there's also just like, I don't want to be seen. And then just expressing, because of my throat chakra has also been blocked as we've worked through all this stuff. Anyway, so there's a situation, again, I'm being called to lead. And this time though, I have a little bit more tools in my toolkit. So I'm noticing when I start to get to those sticky points. And I keep being reminded, not just by my guides, not just by Lucas, not by Kellyanne, not by you, but by other people who are humans, not being in an intuitive realm, like, nope, you've got this. And they'll say to me, they'll even say it to me like this: Julie's got this. Julie's got this. And they'll say it right back to me. It's uncomfortable. At the same time, it's also interesting to stand in this place of, oh yeah, no, I've got this. Oh wait, no, I trust myself. Oh wait, no. How, if I did it the way I would usually do it, which is milk toast it or make it less bland, because that would be an approach I would do, is make it bland, talk in like large terms so no one would really understand what I was saying. If I would go that route, then I'm not actually fulfilling the role that I'm in. And I need to fulfill the role that I'm in, not just for the organization, but for me. This is an opportunity. So it's just been really kind of interesting. At the same time, though, as I was giving Kate some more details, I was getting really pissed off because what I'm trying to express, I'm pissed that I even have to express it. Like, really, seriously, we can't all see that it needs, and I have to speak of it vaguely just to protect the innocent, but it does. The anger is a cue that that's where I need to trust, that trusting myself is a good path. Yes. Okay. I'm done.
Explain a bit about that. Why, when you say you're angry, that it even needs to be explained? Explain that.
So it's like, if you're gonna, in my humble opinion, if you're gonna do something, meaning if you're gonna play
Take money to do a job.
What? Say what?
You're going to take money to do a job.
If you're going to take money to do a job, thank you, Kate. If you're going to take money to do a job, then fully commit to doing the job, regardless of whether it may. There's a cover your ass or CYA aspect that's coming into this. Not for me, but if you're going to take the money to do the job, then do the job instead of worrying about CYAing all the time. Because when you're CYAing, you're standing in a place of fear. If you're committing to doing the job and you're taking the money to doing the job, then do the job to the best of your ability, whatever that may bring, which also kind of, this cover your ass also has an aspect of attaching to an outcome, which then can ultimately lead to coming at things from a place of fear. And so I just get really angry when it's like, for the love of God, do the right thing, call a spade, even admit when stuff isn't working for you. And I know I'm saying all this because it's super hard to do because we're doing this too. And now I guess I'm just being really super vague about it, but I don't know. Am I making any sense?
So person X, let's say.
Yes.
Are you sure that person X has the ability to do the job to the level that you expect them to?
No, and that's part of the quandary.
That's where the covering your ass comes in, where people who, because I must admit, biggest shock to me ever, because I'm really quite a simple person. I do what I'm told and I do it to the best of my ability, and it never occurs to me that there are other options, to be honest. I am extremely naive, and it was only I did also work in an American company, but a tech company where most people, certainly at the engineering level, they are the same. They're just doing what they have to do. They don't really care about how they're perceived. They don't care about the stock prices. They don't care about the marketing. They just want to do a good job in engineering. So I've been lucky enough to work mostly with people like that, so there was no conflict. Obviously, those who go higher up the ladder, you have different personalities. Marketing, sorry, Julie, but marketing type, sales executives, and all those who frankly have a different rule book.
Yeah.
But the other thing I had never really come across, but you're mute. Oh, no. The other thing I hadn't really come across to any degree, simply because maybe I was just really lucky with our group, or maybe because of the group of people we attracted much the same. I had never come across incompetence before. I was astounded when I came across incompetence, but what was also more astonishing was somebody who was incompetent but really thought they were doing a good job. Just staggering. And then, but for me, it becomes an immoral. I'm like, how dare you? This is your outrage. How dare you be shit at your job? Is really what you're saying.
Well, how dare you? So this is me being, and there's a judgmental thing, which then, of course, when I'm realizing I'm being judgmental, reminds me of me observing my mother being judgmental. And so then I want to just stop talking because I didn't like it when I watched her do it. So now I'm doing it myself. That being said.
But this is good, because you've worked through a lot of other layers, and now here you are in a different context where actually it's your job to get to the bottom of this. You can't go, you know, whereas in most, certainly in my life, where there are things I find I'm being judgmental, I now have the choice to turn away from it. I don't need to look at that anymore. I don't need to work through this. I'm just going to turn my attention away from it. But you're now being, this is interesting because you're now being forced into a situation where you can't go all woo-woo and say, I don't agree with what he's doing, but I'm just going to turn a blind eye to it because it's really none of my business, because this is your business and you are being paid, or not paid, but
No,
you're
I'm not paid.
yeah, it's a volunteers, but it's a position of respect, shall we say, that you have an obligation to address somebody else's behavior.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to you is, why is it personal?
Why? I don't know why. I do know why.
Could it be?
Yeah.
I'm just going to attach to my guys before I go off on
I
one.
mean, as far as personal, as far as the anger part of it, is that why? Because the anger
Well,
signifies there's a personal aspect to it? Is that what you're
I
saying?
would say so. Why would you be angry otherwise? Because you'd just be like, oh, he shit at his job. He, she,
No,
it. Sorry, I didn't mean to
I
specify.
understand that. Yeah, okay. That's a good way to put, thank you. Okay, keep going. Yeah. I can
Well,
answer
just that.
Sorry.
Okay, but I don't know if it's connected. I haven't joined the dots, but when you were talking originally about why you don't think you're leadership material, stuff that, or not that you don't think you are, but that you don't want to push yourself forward, it's really obvious to me why you wouldn't do that, because as you say, all your life you've been shall we say, criticized or made fun of for being different. Julie's way, Julie's this, Julie's whatever. And you're like, what now? Now I'm going to put that on show for more abuse. Like, you know, if you're a leader, you've got nowhere to hide if you're different.
No.
What's interesting now, though, is you now have the opportunity to go,
Okay. Yes, you just totally, yep, okay. Yep.
did you get one of those? Right. So here's an interesting point. See what you just felt?
Yeah.
Um, I've been working with Louise about the pain and why it's come up and everything like that, and she was talking about, she had all these references that I don't remember, but like every emotion has a beginning, an end, and a middle, a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you can get stuck. What I am is I'm stuck in sort of processing at the moment, which is why I'm in a stress tunnel, which is what's causing all the pain and everything like that. But when we were talking, we had, so whilst I closed the shed, as we discussed, right, and I there's so much more in that, but because of the timing of my website, my renewals, my domain, and my email, if I closed them within a few days, I could get the money back. I'd literally just renewed everything. So I was just like, right, I've got all my stuff saved off, I'll close everything. So I closed everything. And as I did it, as this refund was being processed, I realized to my horror that on an Exchange server, everything is on the server. Because on Windows, I used to save off the email files. So if you deleted your account, you at least had your emails that you had saved off. I had saved nothing. My entire business account with all my receipts and everything gone. And I sat there and I realized what had happened, and I felt just what you did just there, you know, that, and it was like a wave. I mean, it's fine, I've got it all back, but it was that shock, horror. And it's interesting because this is what Louise said, we forget every single emotion has a physical element to it. It's just we don't. So what you observed right there, every emotion you have is an entire body sensation. It's just we don't acknowledge it because they happen so quickly and we rush on to do things. But I just saw you feel what I did when I realized I deleted all my emails. It was just this wave of like, anyway, sorry, we digress.
Well, and so when you said that, I got this whole like light bulb moment download. I finally made a connection, and it just like it overtook my body. So you said I've always been ridiculed for being different, and now I'm putting myself out there, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm actually wanting to lead through this stuff, using the teachings, the learnings that we've worked on for the last 4 years, 5 years, however long it's been. This coming at things from standing in a place of love, not engaging in a tit for tat, not doing the typical. I was even thinking about this in terms of my boss from the job I lost, my last advertising job, and how she wanted me to be. And when I stood up to her, which is what ultimately caused my demise. Demise, freeing, whichever way you want to look at it. When I basically was yelling at her over Zoom and telling her to fuck off, I think I can count the number of F's anyway. And I don't have enough digits to count how many times I used the F word at her anyways. But when I actually shared what I needed to share in the way that I needed to do it, that's part of what's causing this anger and this distress is I have been putting myself out there in the new way with the new tools, staying in a place of love, trusting myself and not worrying about the outcome. Because I can say what needs to be said, whatever the choices are that everybody makes, that's the choices, including me. We could get to a point where the board's like, there's a little bit. So where the group is like, you're not fit to lead. And okay, fine. It's not necessarily anything that would take the trust away from me myself. That's the part that it normally would. Okay, you guys make choices. That's cool. Like I don't know. There's a whole, but you just completely clarified. You just shined the light on this whole thing about me being different. And now here I am coming at this leadership role with these woo-woo tools, which to me,
if you look at all the really great business people, Stephen Covey, a whole lot, if you actually read the practices, they're not a million miles from our woo-woo stuff at all. They're just expressed in different language.
Yeah, Brad's going through this my husband's going through this training today called the R Factor. And so on the way to work today, he was telling me he had to do this training and he was chosen to do it and whatever. And so I was like, what does R mean? And we were just playing around and coming up with all the corporate revenue, return on investment, like that type of stuff that's led us to this crappy situation that the planet's in. Anyway, so we were just playing. So he gets to work and he looks it up and it actually means response. And it's an equation, but it's like I think it's something like situation and your response equals the outcome, which actually is what we kind of talk about. How we respond to anything, all we need to focus on is our response, our awareness, our response. And that's what this training's all about. And so he's been doing a lot of that type of work with me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like so cool that you get to do this training right now. How it's like totally fits into everything you're doing right now. Anyway, so I don't know why I went off on that.
Sitting in your new vantage point.
Yeah. I feel really good.
When you think of person X.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you view person X with compassion rather than?
Yeah. And I will say I have been. There are just moments of humanity. I would say weakness, but it's just being human, where it's just like, oh, come on. Don't get paid for this. It takes away from my business. Like there's resentment in that regard too. I'm doing a lot of work. And I also have to be mindful that some of the work I might be taking on because I feel like I have to push an outcome. So there's another aspect to it that it's like, maybe I don't have to do that and let the chips fall where they may. Maybe that's part of it too. Yeah.
It's an interesting opportunity to, because I'm in a similar situation with closing down the shed. It's like there's stuff I could do to tidy it all up if I, that I'm sort of thinking I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, because usually about money, because I'm still paying for services, I have to shut them down. I actually have to pay money to shut things, nothing's that simple. There's another bit of me going, you just making work for yourself, Kate. Are you making yourself feel worthy? So you might find yourself in, it sounds like you've got that situation as well, like for different reasons, but like, are you making more of this than you have to because of your inherent desire to be a hard worker and the best at everything you do? Or actually, is that enough?
Yeah.
And as you would say, sit in your power and ask the question.
Say what?
sit in your power and ask the question, do I really need to do this? I'm still struggling with that because I do have, I don't know if it's fear or just what I would call real world anxiety about if I don't keep these records, because I could have just left my email and gone, let's assume that the tax never questioned me because I haven't, and I've printed out most things that were receipts, but that was really what it was. All my invoices for the last 5 years was in that email, because everything's on email now, nothing, and I'm old school, I still do print them out, but obviously I miss some. And I was thinking, if anyone ever questioned me, I can't go back through my records because I have nothing, because everything's done by email. But there was a big moment there, and I thought, do I really need to recover this? Am I just making work for myself? Because if I trusted that everything would always be okay, I would trust that the Inland Revenue would never question me, and I would never need to prove anything. There's that, but there is, and I don't know. I'm not aligned enough to trust that the Inland Revenue will never question me, because I don't believe I'm operating at that level of vibration, which means the Inland Revenue will never grab. That's yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. There was something you just said. Oh, you were talking about the level of work, which is interesting. Am I creating work because I feel like I have to perform at something to that effect?
Yeah, but well, yeah.
There's an expectation thing in there, which is so interesting, because when you said that, I was like, oh, because I was looking at the one situation, but I see it actually repeated. Because I feel like I'm TAing for our teacher right now, and the group's been really.
That's teaching assistant for anyone who doesn't know.
Thank you. Teaching assistant for one of our teacher, Danielle. You can see that interview here on our YouTube channel. Anyway, but the group's been really quiet. So I feel guilty. Like, okay, let's talk. I need something to do. I need something to do. I need something to do. And there's another group that we both participate in that I do social media for. And even for making light, like I've not been doing as much social media because I'm also trying to honor like putting my phone down by 8 o'clock at night, not picking it up again until after I meditate. So that now my window on my phone to do social media stuff is shrunk, and I'm trying to balance out how all that plays. And then even just being able to do, and I feel guilty. And I'm told by people not to feel guilty. I still choose to do that. Isn't that funny? I still choose to feel guilty that I'm not doing enough.
I think so. Gary Van Warmerdam, who was one of the first teachers I ever listened to. I love it. It's really windy out, and the birds, they just go really high in the sky, and they just stay like that. As the wind's coming. It's really very graceful.
What a metaphor, Kate. What a metaphor.
What? Being against the wind.
When the wind is coming at you, you just
go, oh, that's fun.
Yeah, they just stay right there. Oh my gosh, what a lesson from the animals right there. Oh,
amazing. Yeah. So Gary Van Warmerdam, who I have a lot of respect for, who was one of the first teachers I listened to, but he was briefly talking about, I didn't really know this about him when I followed him, but he was in I can't remember if he was in the military or was he something really high powered. I actually think it might have been like an engineer for like weapons, or I don't know, but it was like, but he'd got all these accolades and he'd gone higher, and I think he'd got his doctorate, and then he got this, and then he got that, and at some point he realized, like, if this isn't good enough, what is good enough? Like once you've got your PhD and then, and he was climbing up the ladders, it's like, and this is the same for you and I. What is good enough, Julie? How many hours a day is enough?
Yeah.
Because if you answer that question, you'd be like, it's irrelevant. You can never be good enough, Julie, because there will always be, you could always spend more hours doing something. You could stop eating, you could stop washing, you could stop going to bed and spend more hours working. It's when you realize that this belief that you have is completely and utterly ridiculous, based on nothing, because that belief does not go away the more work you do. It only ever beats you up when you think you're not doing enough. You never get to a point where you go, I've done plenty today. That should satisfy my belief of not being good enough. Has that ever happened?
No.
All it does is beat you with a stick.
Yes.
You know, it's like you can never, ever, ever work hard enough, be good enough to satisfy that belief, which is why you have to stop listening to it. I'm going to tell you what nose means. We've only got a nose bleed or nose bone. I prefer the nose. I think, but just for nosebleed, interestingly, it says your character feels under attack by means of judgment, criticism, or abuse. Your way of handling tasks and communicating are not accepted or approved by influential people.
Ah.
You feel temporarily disconnected from the joy in life. You seem to focus too much on what others think of you. Your focus has been shifted away from your family or your partner. You are a people pleaser and focus too much on supporting others as you feel accepted and validated by pleasing people. The more you do for another, the more you feel valued and important. It also takes you further away from your accomplishments as you are always busy pleasing others. You are in a situation that is challenging your bad habits. Happiness is always accompanied by hardships, leaving a bittersweet aftertaste. You often fail to recognize the difference between when a situation is dangerous and when it's non-threatening, and you feel irritated and offended by your circumstances. These circumstances have challenged your ego, and you are trying to resist certain emotions from surfacing. You regret recent decisions and mistakes.
It was that line that I went, oh, it was confirmed.
Yeah, your way of handling tasks and communicating are not accepted or approved by influential people.
Yeah, it was.
But what's
totally
interesting,
that aha moment that I had, it's totally aligned with that.
What's interesting though is that actually you are getting evidence from the people around you that weirdo Julie and her way of doing things, they have no issue with it. They have full confidence in it.
Yeah,
that's all in your head.
You what?
That's all in your head. They haven't even noticed you're different or weird.
No, they're actually like, they've actually said to me, different people on the team have said to me, we just love, not everybody really knows what I do. And if they know, many of them, the rest, they don't quite understand it except for 2 people, maybe 3. Anyway, but they have not the ones that have said this. They're saying, you go with your gut instinct. You're so intuitive. You're so collaborative. You're so like all these things. And I'm just like, okay, that's just what I want to see in the world. Oh my gosh. Okay. I feel so much better. I just feel so much better. Like, okay, I got this. It's trusting myself again. It's coming right back to trusting like it's settling right on the line, but it's just a nuance. There's so many nuance. Yeah.
So I think, and I started reading. Do you remember this? Like, I don't know if you can, is that the right way around for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was a book that Danielle had recommended in the interview, I think. But it was just a line there, and I'm not going to show you. My room is an absolute fucking mess. It's incredible that we have this much space, actually, that you can see. If I just tipped the camera, but I will show you these, actually. It's Valentine's Day yesterday, and neither of us go anywhere. So I'd said to Gary, look, if you don't have a card, we'll just not bother, because I have a collection of cards that I use. And I was like, and he was like, no, I don't have a card for you. And I was like, well, look, don't worry about it. So I didn't give him a card. And of course he does this every time because he loves pulling one over on me. Like,
oh, I love those. Is that like Love Pop? Where did it come from?
This New York.
Okay.
So you've seen the trees he's given me before.
Yeah.
So this is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I didn't give him a card and he gave me that. So in this book, it is very interesting because it's sort of all stuff sort of we know, but it's nice to hear it from a different perspective. But he talks about what he calls upper limiting problem, which means when we get to a point where we're happy or we're feeling too much joy, or I think in a way, Paul McKenna describes it as well, that if you get too much money or you get something comes that equalizes it all and takes you back down again. But he's talking about that, but with joy, and that's when I'm going to say self-sabotage. That's not the word he uses, but we sabotage things because we are just not accustomed to being outside our comfort zone. And then the whole of the human psyche is geared towards survival. The world is threatening, all of this, and our society perpetuates that. So when you get to this point, and then you start putting all your limiting beliefs and doubts and bring yourself back down again, and that you have to learn to step through that. And I sort of looked at that, and I know, again, it's stuff that I've heard before, but I thought about this whole thing with the shed. Literally days before all this kicked off about all my doubts about the shed, I had started to feel, I've been doing that work with Bella Lively, used to be Jess Lively, for anyone that follows her, and she's now called Bella Lively, and it's called, and it's Bella Vita. It's about living in a different alternative reality. And I'd actually just started to be able to sit in that space and beginning to feel that alignment, let's call it, where you just start to sort of, and I've been working with that, and I was like, oh my God, this is, I can do this, I can expand on this. I just have it for a couple of seconds, but it's enough for you to know, wow, if this I know what they mean now. This means I need to go to this place and stay in this place and let that happen, a bit like when you first start meditating, because I don't get that from meditation anymore, but I was feeling it again doing this. Literally 3 days after that, they all blew apart with the shed. So I'm only halfway through it, but it is quite interesting, the examples that he uses, whether it's either through it's like if people who have a really nice time with their spouse or whatever, and then they all fall out afterwards, but just all the examples they use, and you think, I've never really thought of it like that. It's almost like a reaction we have to too much joy or too much love or too much excitement or too much whatever. It's almost like there's something then kicks in to try and equalize it again, because you're just not, you do not believe you are able or allowed to live at that exalted level. So you then bring it all down. So that was very interesting. I don't know why I brought that up.
Well, but I'm going to take that and go. So I'm reading the book called, and we're going to need to talk about this book. It's called The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor Mate. Oh my God, the amount of information, the amount of, oh my gosh, it's just like, I love this book. I actually I got it from the library. I ended up buying my own copy so I could make notes in it, because it's just so amazing.
I hope you're doing that in pencil.
I don't know how I haven't actually started yet, because writing in a book is for me to do, and I don't do it because I respect the book. So I just have
Do you ever sell the book?
Do I sell them? No, I give them away though, all the time.
Right. So write in biro then.
Yeah. So anyhoozle, he was talking in the part that I read last night, he was talking about happiness and pleasure. And so part of the disconnect, he calls it dislocation. Well, someone else does anyways, but dislocation. So if you think of our culture in terms of a dislocated shoulder, this is the example that he and another doctor use in the book. Our arm is still attached, but we can't do a whole lot with it. And that's how humans are with the natural world. We've lost this connection. We're dislocated from nature. This is part of why things are collapsing. There's lots more to it. And I'm not going to go into all that, because I could talk about this book for hours anyway. But he talked last night about in terms of happiness and pleasure. Pleasure is something that becomes, he's done so much work in addiction. So there's an addictive aspect to pleasure. And I hope I'm not paraphrasing him, but there's, the body wants pleasure. And when it has pleasure, then it wants more, then it wants more. What we've accidentally done is confused happiness and pleasure. Happiness is a state of contentment, of I am happy. I have enough. I don't need anything else. I am happy. We don't allow ourselves to be in a state of happiness. We don't celebrate a state of happiness. We think we're trying to find it, but it's actually pleasure we're trying to find. And we've misconstrued these two things. So it kind of has a further little nuance on what you were just saying too, because that's pleasure. That's also where we're and Brené Brown talks about that too, where we have we'll go in and say goodnight to our child, our chickens, our dog, and then say, oh my gosh, you're going to die someday. We don't allow ourselves to just stay in that state of, oh, I love you so much. We have to find a way to bring it down.
The ego then brings in all the worry about that it's going to end. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what the point of this book so far is, that you recognize that you're doing that and go, okay, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. It was just like one sentence that even reading it out made me feel better. And it was, I'm going to commit to feeling better, a little bit better every day, or a little bit better for longer every day. And I thought, I can do that. I can do that. It sounds simple. It really is. It's about, and it goes back to law of attraction 101 that we forget, which is when you find yourself down that spiral of worry, is stop. You can stop. He says it's like a tennis ball. You've got to just let go of it. Right?
Yeah.
Worry is not gripping you. You are gripping worry. It's up to you to let worry go. If it's not about the kettle being on and your house burning down, there's no point. You can't change the outcome. Stop.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, I must admit. It's easier. I'm okay during the day. If it happens at night, because this is why I was doing the emotion stuff with Louise, is because the anxiety is back in the mornings. Like I wake up. I was actually okay this morning. I wake up and I'm literally waiting. It's like, no, please don't stop, please don't stop, please don't stop. And then it starts, and it's just
yeah.
But I didn't have it this morning.
When you look at this episode, Kate, just know that part. When you hear that Nyla just popped in, listen to what you just said about the worry.
Yeah,
that's part of it too. I wanted to say, when you said commit to staying like happier for a little bit longer every single day. For me, when I realize that I'm at least at this point able to recognize when I start to get, oh my God, I'm just going to say the wrong thing. Oh my God, I'm upsetting that person. Oh my God, they're not going to like this. Like when I start to have those feelings, at least, and hear the thoughts, like I at least now, oh wait, I see I'm doing that. Okay. And then that's like my cue to like take that step back and take that deep breath. Just the awareness alone. And I say this to coaching clients of mine, just the awareness alone allows the grip. Like when you said drop the tennis ball, like it just allows, just the awareness alone allows that to step back and go, oh. And then like for me, like I think, okay, wait, what would Julie, if Julie was the other person, what would Julie like to see in this situation? What would Julie appreciate? And I would always appreciate direct conversation, open, frank conversation, being able to just talk and not be in a place of fear or judgment or anything like that. And so that type of space that I can hold for any of these situations, but I just have to take a step back and ground myself in that trust. And
the other thing that we forget, and it is really hard for people like you and I, is to remember that whatever's going on with the other person, I mean, obviously, if you're being a complete ass, maybe you're adding to it. But if you're not being a complete ass, you're not responsible for what's going on with them.
Right. No, it's not my.
That's hard.
That just reminded me of when we were doing coaching, you, me, Maria, with Danielle. And there was one session where she was saying to me, I needed to write down what was happening with me and this other big group of women, because I wasn't fitting in, and they were making it abundantly clear that I was not included in their group, which I didn't want to be, but at the same time, it still hurt. And I remember, because that image of me saying to Danielle, it's not my fault they don't like me. It's not my fault. Like that line of, it's not my fault. Because it wasn't, I mean, yes, if I was being a dick, absolutely wasn't being, that's a different thing, but they were making a choice. And I had other choices I could make. I didn't have to continually try to beat my head up against that wall, which was.
Did you like them?
No. I wanted nothing to do with them.
Well,
I know.
So maybe they would be more honest than you, Julie.
Absolutely.
Isn't it funny? Because the converse of that is remembering as a child, I'm sure it still happens as an adult. I just don't get out much. When you fancy somebody, but if you then find out that Alan at school fancies you and you don't fancy Alan, you're not in the slightest bit interested in the fact he fancies you. Like it's meaningless to you. Right. So the converse is I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like we want so much to be loved by someone, but when we're loved by people that don't interest us, we don't give a shit about it. It doesn't make you love them. It's a really strange thing, isn't it, that we only value love or friendship from people that we want to be. Yeah, whatever. Talk shite.
No, you're not. No, it's true.
But isn't it interesting that a group of women that you don't want to be friends with, that you're upset that they don't want to be friends with you?
Yeah. I will just say, is there still residual? There's still a little residual feeling there. If I'm honest. Yeah.
The exercise I had to do today was you had to write down all your past stressors or just things that and so I was trying to do the exercise justice. Oh God, this again. But it's interesting what comes up, because there are 2 or 3 childhood things that come up very, very clearly, and I feel like there's no emotion left in them, but they still come to mind. I remember an incident with my sister and horrible little boy that lived a couple of doors down from us, and he just made my life hell for a while. They all sort of came back to the same thing. It wasn't even so much his actions, but it was the fact that I retaliated against him. He'd stolen some of my toys, and we used to go around to their house, and they used to come to our house, and I snuck into his bedroom to get my stuff back. And I went to my dad and told him that I had found this stuff, and then I got in trouble for going into his room, and like really seriously in trouble. Like not a telling off. With my mum, it was always like, you're never going anywhere ever again. You're never going to go and see anyone else's house. All of this, and you're like, the injustice. He fucking stole from me. I have proof that he stole from me, and I'm in trouble now because I snuck into his bedroom. Anyway, but it still makes me angry. Still makes me angry. Fucking Hugh. If you're watching this, Hugh Price. My sister met him years later. She said he's a really nice guy and I'd probably really like him. He's a bit of a hippie. And I'm like, I don't think I would. I really don't think I would. Maybe I should look him up. Maybe he's watching this. Hi, Hugh.
There's a line from The Princess Bride where you killed my father, prepare to die. Where I forget being anyway, and that's you just think you stole my stuff, prepare to die. Like
well, I had this toy. And it was called Fluffy because that was really original. And it was made out of rabbit skin. I know that's horrible, but and he had like a paper mache head with fur on it and then a little body, and the head was attached with a string, so his head would go up and down like that. And he pulled the head off and cut the string off. So like Fluffy was like because he wanted the spring. Yeah, never forgive him for that.
Well, that sounds like another episode of Making Light, 2 humans.
Yeah. So trust. Let's pull this back together. Trust. I think it's interesting. It really is interesting, and I think I can't remember where I got it in that book, but it's almost like there was a beautiful way to tie this together, but I'm not sure if I can articulate it. When we're flying high or we're doing this, and that's what this book talks about, and then things start crashing down, it's acknowledging, as you said, it's the awareness of, what am I doing to myself? Why am I doing this? Why am I, but I think for you and I especially, well, for me especially anyway, there's that trust thing that comes in. A lot of my worry is about I've made a decision, and then I start to worry about the reasons why I made the decision. Have I made the right decision? And all of that, I know, again, reinforced by my writing lists again this morning, comes from a lifetime of being undermined by my mother as a child. So there is always this huge fear of getting something wrong. So Kate, in her inherent, let's say Kate, her higher self, has very strong opinions about what needs to happen, and I will stand by them and I will defend them. But then left to my own devices, I quietly unravel and go, well, what if I'm wrong? What if, and this is what's happening with that Nyla the hen. It's like I have very strong, I'm not going to put her through surgery. She's an old bird. If she's going to die, she's going to die, because you and I both know she's going to go when she's ready. I will do everything I can to make her comfortable. I don't want to put her through surgery. I don't want to do that. And then I start to, but if I don't put her through surgery, am I being selfish? Am I doing this because I don't, and then it all starts unraveling. It's like, just don't go there. It's about going, I made a decision. You see, even now I'm beginning to doubt my own decision, but it's being able to catch that and saying, is this a genuine concern, or is this me just unraveling because I don't trust myself? And for you too, you know how you want to treat person X, you know what you want to do, and then you get that like wobble of doubt, and you go, oh, am I doing this right? Am I going, and then all the doubt comes in. Whereas when you made the decision, you were quite clear and quite sure about what you wanted to do.
Yeah. Yep.
And that comes again from years of being ridiculed and poked fun at and being told you're different, and that undermines your what's the word, self-belief, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So you're fine when you're fighting, you can fight your corner.
Yeah.
It's when the resistance stops and then you go, oh, now I'm not so sure. That's what I find. It's like I can fight, this is right, this is what I want to do, and then if people stop fighting me, and then I'm like, am I sure? Oh my God, what if I'm wrong?
Well, and for me, it's more like when I notice when I have to put myself out there, and if there's resistance, if there's any type of resistance or people question me, then I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Then I start to get introspective and beat myself up, because just because they're questioning, I don't hear that they're just trying to gain clarity, or they're just, let's just have a conversation, which is actually what I want. I think they're questioning my ability, and then that sets off this whole thing of defensiveness, because, oh my God, here I go again. I don't fit in. Nobody like that type of a thing. Whoa. There's a lot there. All right. But we should probably wrap up for this week, right? Yeah. So we might come back to this. We'll see how it all, because this is all just one big ball of yarn, right? So, yeah.
Yes, agree.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Kate, because this was, I have some thinking to do in a good way, because I just feel like some stuff just kind of got illuminated a little bit even more, all around trusting myself. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. And thank you, because before we came on, Julie's given me a lot of advice on Nyla, and there was a bit in there as well, so thank you.
So much believing in ourselves and so much trusting ourselves. Oh my gosh, the universe is full of it right now. It's always full of it. Anyway, so with that, we will say goodbye for now. This has been, I'm Julie Hirt. With me as always is Kate Foggo. This has been Making Light Two Humans Being. Please, if you enjoyed this show, please like and subscribe it. If you like it, you'll get notified if you hit the little bell. If you subscribe it, other people can find us as well. And we really still want to grow our subscriber base. We have a big goal. So if you can help us get there, that'd be great. Share it with your friends and family. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts, ideas for other shows, put them in the comments below. And we will see you next week here on Making Light Two Humans Being. Thanks for being here.